Chapter 3. Continue it. Haints. Maybelle, you dug really deep for that one. Zora's light brown eyes flashed with anger and her jaws stiffened. She assumed Jane said her middle name, Maybelle, out of spite and she hated it. Cutting her eyes at her sister-in-law, she snapped back. Caldonia, why is your head so hard? Jane raised the palm of her right hand in the air. Haints, y'all gotta go. She chuckled. No tarrying, no exceptions. All your asses got to go. You think I'm joking? Zora returned the sage bundle and abalone shell to the beige tote. Well, I warn your black ass. She headed toward the door. I'll wait for Heather in the corridor. Hasta la vista. Jane stepped out onto the balcony and gazed at the shimmering Pacific Ocean sunbathing its enormous body. I'm sure the residents heard Zora and I arguing and yelling at each other. What a great first impression I've made, and I have to ride back to LA with that heifer. Jane and Zora's fury and indignation toward one another crammed every inch of the Benz's interior. Neither one of them uttered a word, let alone mention the name, Blue Shore Tower, or Jane's offer to Heather for the loft. Zora took surface streets to avoid the bumper-to-bumper traffic on the freeway. Their silence was offset by a talk radio show and radio commercials. They couldn't wait to get out of each other's sight like a woman who was eager to remove a tight-fitting bra, not desiring to look even at Zora's side profile. Jane stared out the passenger window, ate the 3 pieces of orange sliced candies, and checked out the pedestrians. Some thrust all their weight on their toes and their heads bounced up and down as they walked. Others strode in an offbeat flat shuffle or waddled sideways as ducks did. Occasionally, someone put their head, shoulders, limbs, hips, and passion into their gait. The furniture movers loaded Jane's belongings from her Limer Park home to a moving van on a Monday in the last week of May, under the supervision of her property manager. When the van arrived at the Blue Shore Tower, Jane supervised the placement of the furniture while Charlotte kept an eye on the valuables. Over the next few days, Charlotte's artist friend Ava and her helper hung the artwork throughout the loft. At the same time, the drapery workers put up the custom-made curtains, and the brand-new kitchen appliances, white leather furniture, and other furnishings arrived. After finishing the final touches on her loft, Jane celebrated by stripping naked, pouring a glass of Bristol Cream Sherry, and dancing in every room of the loft to Gloria Gaynor's I Will Survive, while sipping the wine. Excited about the prospect of meeting new people and having new experiences, she decided to throw a small housewarming party. It was Saturday afternoon. Pink watermelon-colored clouds snaked across the Santa Monica skyline, and Nina Simone's rendition of Here Comes the Sun rocked the loft. Jane, having seen Simone perform in L.A., was unaware of the artist's inner turmoil, noticing only the vocalist's strong stage presence. While glancing at herself in a wall mirror, she observed something blurry pass behind her. Turning around quickly, she didn't see it anymore and brushed the incident off as a fluke. My appearance certainly screams midlife crisis. Charlotte even did a double take when I opened the door to welcome her in. I feel sexy wearing the off-the-shoulder white blouse, tight black leggings, black mules, and black shadow over my eyelids for a smoldering, seductive effect. Of course, I would never wear this outfit in public. Mom, the view of the Pacific is so fantastic. Charlotte pulled out the fencing foil from its bag leaning against the wall. I thought you would give the foil away. Oh no, never. Jane laughed. Sylvia and I are going to practice in the tower's gym. I'll put away the rest of the dishware, pots and pans. Charlotte returned the foil to its bag. Thanks. How's your designer stuff selling? At a good clip. Jane smiled. Charlotte cleared her throat. What happened between you and Aunt Zora? The smile on Jane's face disappeared as quickly as a turtle's head into a shell. The question was like a deep paper cut on a finger. It was excruciating. She didn't want to discuss the matter with Charlotte and wondered what Zora told her daughter. We didn't see eye to eye on the matter. Jane's jaws clenched as she relived the dispute with Zora inside the loft and their icy drive back to L.A. Charlotte pulled out a shopping bag from her backpack and showed the contents to Jane. Aunt Zora sent you some sage bundles that she dressed with special herbs, plus these crystals, some white candles, and a gallon of holy water. That woman is brainwashing my daughter with her voodoo mess. Jane scrutinized the items with disgust. What am I supposed to do with the holy water? Sprinkle it in the corners of the rooms. Charlotte made a sprinkling motion with one of her hands. I swear Zora is Lulu. Jane twirled her index finger in a circle near her head. No, she isn't, Charlotte declared, refusing to drink Jane's Kool-Aid. Aunt Zora is well-grounded. Well-grounded my ass, Jane replied. Put that junk in the dining room credenza. The row between you guys must have been epic, since neither one of you will tell me what happened. With the shopping bag in hand, Charlotte made her way into the dining room and placed the bag into the credenza, as well as 2 bundles of sage into Jane's tote atop the table, to get back at her for being so mean-spirited toward her aunt. The ringing of the doorbell punched through the music. Who could that be? Jane walked over to the front door and viewed the camera screen. She observed 2 men. One of them was holding a basket. Yes? Hello, Mrs. Brown. We're with the Blue Shore Towers Welcoming Committee, the ginger male stated. I was expecting the committee, but not so soon. She opened the door. Hello, I'm Roger Franks. The 6-footer had large square teeth and a wide, friendly smile. We won't be long. Roger is ripped. The man must live at the gym. I'm Trevor Adams. Trevor's British accent is sexy as hell, and so are his hazel eyes. Jane shook their hands. Do come in and have a seat. Trevor is checking out my shelf. Welcome to Blue Shore Tower, and here's a basket full of goodies. Roger handed Jane the basket, which she placed on one of the small Art Deco tables. Thanks. Roger sat in a white leather armchair, and Jane sat on a white leather loose seat next to Trevor and checked out his left hand. There isn't a wedding ring on his finger. Wonder if he's in a serious relationship. Trevor started glimpsing the art and African masks hanging on the walls. Mrs. Brown, I love your lost eclectic vibe and the colorful throw pillows. I like mixing vintage, modern, and bohemian pieces together. Jane crossed her leg over the other one and placed the hand on the lube seat inches away from Trevor's. Guys, I'm a widow. Please call me by my first name, Jane. Hopefully that bit of news will give Trevor a push to make a move. Jane glanced toward Charlotte as Trevor feigned interest in a red throw pillow he placed over Jane's hand. That's my daughter, Charlotte. Hello. Charlotte joined the group and sat in a white leather armchair near Roger's. Trevor is rubbing his pinky against mine's on the sly. Jane glanced over at him. His hazel eyes twinkled with laughter and mischief and invited her on a voyage. Why not climb aboard his yacht? She thought. After all, I'm searching for new adventures and new vistas. The innocence of a choir boy masked Trevor's handsome face, boasting a set of thick eyebrows, voluminous eyelashes, a perky nose, and thick, juicy pink lips. I'm sure he knows a lot of naughty tricks. Trevor cracked a smile that Jane couldn't resist, and within seconds she presented one of her own. We have a book club, a day trip club, a theater club, and potlucks on the rooftop from time to time, Roger said. I'm going to hand it over to Trevor. Trevor slid his hand from beneath the pillow and pulled a booklet from his coat pocket and handed it to Jane. This directory contains all the info required to navigate around the neighborhood. Thanks, Trevor. There's a cat running around here. Roger waved his hand, annoyed by the situation. We can't find it. Jane, watch out for a green-haired girl named Liv, Trevor chimed in. Zora mentioned a green-haired girl would be attacked at the complex. That rude girl named Liv has green hair, but so do a couple of other girls that live here. Trevor shook his head. Liv has some issues. Liv certainly does have some issues. I met her while entering the elevator the other day. I carelessly brushed my hand against hers. You would have thought I'd given the child the bubonic plague the way she withdrew from me and hugged the elevator panels. Irritated by such childish behavior, I told her, I'm sorry for bumping into you. Get over it. To my shock, Liv sprang off the elevator panels, frothing with rage, and confronted me. She was so close, I could feel the warm mist from her nostrils striking my face. Why don't you just shut up and die? She shouted as merriment danced within her slate blue eyes. You ugly old bitch. I figured Liv was high on something because she certainly had lost her marbles up in my face, and I told her, Girl, you better get out of my face before I give you a lick in your ass. Won't ever forget. When Liv didn't move, I figured the girl was weighing whether to test my mettle and concluded not to do so, since she returned to her corner of the elevator. I've met Liv. Jane uncrossed her leg. We had words. Liv was quite rude. Is she on drugs? Yes, and she's a spoiled trust fund brat, Trevor declared. Her friend Michelle is a pain in the neck, too. A few minutes later, Trevor and Roger stood to leave, and Jane walked them to the door. Next Saturday, I'm throwing a little afternoon bash. I'll expect to see you guys. I'll be there. Roger handed a business card to Jane and Trevor followed suit. Jane, what's your number? Trevor pulled out his cell and inserted her number as she relayed it digit by digit. I'm leaving for New York, but I should be back in time for your party. Have a safe trip. Jane closed the door behind them, hoping Trevor would call her. Ooh, Trevor's British accent set me to the moon. He tagged along with Roger to get a closer look at you. Charlotte grabbed the basket off the table, took the cellophane off, balled it up, and headed into the kitchen. Jane followed her. Why do you think that? Jane's voice was soft and full of curiosity. Trevor probably heard someone commenting on your boobs and touche. Charlotte placed the ball of cellophane into the wastebasket. He sure got an eye full of your boobs. Charlotte can't leave it alone, can she? Jane reflected. So what if he did? I'm sure he liked what he saw. Jane rolled her eyes at her daughter and then inspected Trevor's business card. The brother is an EVP at a blue-chip investment bank. She placed his card and Roger's on the counter. He probably went to private schools all his life, and his mother is probably white. And he probably has never dated a dark-skinned black woman, Charlotte remarked as she placed the basket's goodies into the kitchen cabinets. You sound as if dark-skinned women are Martians. Jane frowned, not too happy about Charlotte's remark. How do you know he's never dated one? Trevor's job involves interacting with the elites and high-powered corporate heads. Generally speaking, dark-toned black women are usually absent from those business and social venues unless they're servers. Charlotte continued putting the goodies away. Would Trevor be slumming if he took me out? Anger was starting to mount within Jane. Mom, please. So, I, as a member of the Sisters Darker Than Vaughn to Black Club, shouldn't consider dating Trevor because I'm out of his league. Mom, please. Can I express what I've observed without any drama? Flickers of sadness, anger, and disappointment clouded Charlotte's amber eyes, and her lips tightened. She was keenly aware of her mother's insecurities about having a dark complexion, even as a child. She noticed how her mother became quieter and less outgoing around light-complexioned black women. However, that Saturday afternoon, she wasn't in the mood to chat-chow with her over a much-traveled road. I wish you would stop carrying a chip on your shoulder about being dark. Charlotte sighed. My hue might get me through the door, but it doesn't prevent me from getting caught in the crosshairs of office politics. It certainly hasn't been a crystal stairway for me. I have tons of war stories. I'm damn sure they don't top mine, Jane cracked. You didn't answer my question. She placed her hand on her hip. Is my expectation of just going out on a date with Trevor, or Trevor calling me too damn high for a dark-complexioned black woman? Charlotte threw the balled cellophane paper into the wastebasket. I don't trust him. She placed the remaining items from the gift basket into the cabinets. He's just an old Ivy League frat boy on the hunt for some snatch. Her light brown eyes glimmered with disdain for the man. Practice makes perfect. Jane giggled. Trevor strikes me as the type of man that brags about his sexual conquest. Charlotte closed the cabinet door and faced Jane. Mom, when you decide to remarry, get a prenup. Jane couldn't believe her daughter thought she was an easy mark for a gigolo. Why would you think I wouldn't? When people fall in love or lust, they lose all perspective on what's best for them. No sweet-talking man is going to empty my bank accounts. I don't care if they speak French, Italian, Spanish, German, Gula, Chinese, Japanese, Swahili, Genoese, or if they have a British accent. Jane's dark brown eyes were lit with fury. I run a check on everyone, just like they run a check on me. So you say. Charlotte opened a bag of potato chips laying on the counter. What about Pierre? Jane's face started cracking from Charlotte's jab, and pieces of it were about to fall on the kitchen's light coral tile floor. She met Pierre at a charity gala held at a swanky West Side hotel. Rita dragged her there kicking and screaming. He introduced her to high-end restaurant dining, and she accompanied him to a few Bel Air and Trousdale soirees. Occasionally, they kicked it at his Trousdale Estates mansion. Therefore, she assumed he had a bankroll. After he ghosted her, she learned Pierre was the companion of a wealthy widow that was visiting her daughter in Europe, and he joined her. Jane pulled herself together. Pierre was a smooth operator. He sure was. Pierre had you fooled with that white Rolls Royce in that Trousdale mansion. Charlotte poured the chips into a plastic container. Everything, including his boxer shorts, belonged to his Norma Desmond. Back then, I was clueless about checking men out. A few minutes ago, you were looking all goo-guyed at Trevor. Charlotte balled the empty potato chip bag up. You would have hopped into bed with him if Roger and I hadn't been here. She grabbed a couple of potato chips from the container. You're a novice when it comes to a sophisticated man like Trevor and his world of high finance and moguls. She bit into a potato chip. He'll run circles around. Charlotte, shut the F up. Accustomed to Jane's outbursts, which she attributed to collateral damage from a rough childhood, Charlotte swept the current one beneath the rug and studied her mother for a moment with pity in her light brown eyes. It's best I leave. Obviously, you're not ready to hear or to accept the truth. She stormed out the kitchen area. Bon voyage! Jane pointed to the front door. Charlotte grabbed her backpack and left, slamming the front door. Oh well. Jane walked over to the bay windows and gazed out at the aqua blue ocean kissing an orange pinkish sky in the distance.